Well, my father, he was 19 years old when he told his father. He said, Dad, he said, I want to go to the Prince Edward Island to buy cows. 19 years old, so that's going back into, Dad was born in, 1909, I think. So anyway, so his father let him, give him the money to go to the island. And of course, Dad didn't own no one on the island, nobody. And you just don't go to a man's door, knock on the door, I'm a cow buyer, I'm here to buy cows and stuff. You've got to have somebody that knows the area, knows the farmers. So going across on the boat, Dad got talking with this man, and Dad told him he was going to the island to buy cows. And Dad said, who would be a good man for me to get in touch with? He said, John Whitehead. He's well known on the island to the farmers. So he said, I'll give you his number. So he gave Dad his number. He said, when you get to town, I don't know, Summerside or what, but you call John. So Dad did. John come down with a horse and buggy, picked my father up, took him back to his farm, stayed overnight. And then they started the next day, horse and buggy on buying cows. So, all right, so a train, a carload would hold 22 cows. So Dad bought a carload, so we'll say 20 at the time, and had them shipped in. I really like to know more about that, but young, I guess I didn't ask. So, okay, so Dad went to the island, almost safe to say, almost every year to buy cows. And I was 11 years old when my father took me to the island with him. And the time Dad took me, Dad bought 120 cows. That was about, I think it was only lacking 2 days of being there a month. But 120 cows. And didn't have trucks back then on driving, hauling cattle. So Dad, farmers all got together and drive 120 cows down the road to town to the stockyard. And I was, like, say, 11 years old. I can remember I was on the drive. At least I could get out there and holler and hoot. And so they get into the stockyard, and of course had to count the cows, made sure they had them all. My father said, there's one missing. Well, they said, well, how would you know, trying to count 120 cows in this stockyard? Dad said, I tell you, there's one cow missing. So different ones counted. Oh, some come up with 130 cows, some come up with 100 cows. And Father said, no, there's one cow missing. So anyway, a farmer back somewhere, the cows got mixed up with somebody's herd. And they sorted them out the best they could. Well, they was okay except one cow. This farmer had her. So the next day, this farmer come in with that cow. Well, what they had, I remember a kid here that had a four-wheel wagon down low, probably would hold 2 cows with a pair of horses, and he come in town with the cow in his wagon and said, this cow is yours. And so that was 120 cows from the island. And then I went with my father every summer to the island when Dad buying cows. Then in wartime, because he went out west and bought a lot of horses. He shipped Dad, well, his brother was in business with him, and they shipped a lot of horses in, and they went up into the Kennebago area, up in Rangeley, in that area, in the woods, and it was kind of odd. I went with my father the first load he hauled up. I think he had a Dodge truck, a 47 Dodge truck, if I remember right. It's either 6 or 8 horses had on the truck. It was loaded back in those days. And we hit a bad thunder shower going into Kennebago. Lightning striking everywhere. And those horses, because there was no roof on the truck, but it was a 6-foot sideboards. And all the horses were kicking. My father was scared. Here he's got a kid in the truck with him, no help really. And here's the horses going crazy on lightning striking and stuff. Well, finally, we got to the logging camp, and they was waiting for my father. It was dark. They was all sleeping, and it sounded to me like a sawmill going in the logging camp where they was all sleeping, And there was all French-Canadian men that worked in the woods there. So, okay, they got the horses unloaded, and I can vaguely remember that we had supper there. They had plenty to eat. And headed out. Oh, it was raining. It was raining terrible. So we had a brook to cross, and Dad was going slow, but still the water come up on the motor and killed the truck out. No light or nothing. Here's all pouring. Dad gets out of the truck. I can remember he put me up on his shoulders because the water was probably up to his waist. Walked back at least 2 miles to camp. Dad was scared. I can remember that because there's bears up there and there's well known. So we get back to the logging camp and they was all, of course, sleeping, and Dad went in and somebody woke up and I bet a half a dozen men got up, and they come down with 2 logging trucks and got my father's truck going. Well, we got home the next morning. I know it was way after daylight when we got home. It was quite a trip. But the next time Dad went, the next time he went, he made sure he had a good man with him and no more kids.